Hi everybody and welcome back to our latest edition here at the Quake Pro League. My name's Ketchup, joined by ZSX. Our next matchup is definitely one of those examples of a player that is on the higher end of the leaderboards versus someone that is on... Why are you laughing? I don't even mean it in a bad way. I mean, this is going to be a challenge.
Very political. Very political. Yes, it's definitely going to be a challenge. I think we've got diametrically opposed players at the moment. Somebody who is some of their best form they've ever been in k1llsen, and then SIB, who's not had the worst season, but obviously right down at the bottom. So it's going to be a tough road.
But I think one of the major elements to factor in here also is the mental game, excuse me. Because k1llsen's the kind of player now that is at such a top form that he's going to... Just look at the record, right? Before I even talk about the gameplay and the style of play that he brings, all clean. It's win, 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 and more win. Against some players that are absolute stiff competition. And we have plenty more weeks left to go. You know, we have more weeks left, and then we have the finals. k1llsen is looking like $1 million. Now, the problem is, if you're the kind of player who has sadly been able to show that sometimes the mental game can conquer you, this is the worst kind of player to fight, right? Because this player that you're against is not going to miss. He's going to hit most of his shots. He's going to play that near flawless game of Quake. Because look, when you're on top form, you just do everything better than most. So that player is not going to be phased about how you're feeling. They're going to do their thing, and they're going to play really well. You need to make sure your head's in the game every step of the way. There is no room for any slip-ups.
And I think that's the main point with k1llsen, is that he just breaks you mentally. There are, within there, taking maps off the likes of Venga, Zenek, Kudramis. SIB, as you mentioned before the break, has ingredients when he puts it all together, whereby he can perform at that level to contest these players. But I think it was in that matchup versus Venga, where if it doesn't go his way and then he shuts down, it just absolutely, it's awful. And so, you know, GGing 3 minutes in against Venga, we could see a very similar circumstance today. So the question, as you put it, is can he stay in the game mentally? Because if not, k1llsen is one of those players that has that capability to just break you, because he plays such a flawless game, a simple, flawless game with just impeccable aim across the board. Like, it will just break you. So will he stay in the game is the big question we've got to look at. And if he does, it could be a contest. But on the flip side, if that side of the game then falters, k1llsen is one of those players that will punish you time and time again.
It leads into what I discussed, what I was talking about kind of in the closing comments on our last matchup, is the importance of these weeklies being able to iron out anything that you might be struggling with as a player. This is a rather major thing. You know, if these weeklies can help you become mentally stronger, that's going to pay for itself when it comes to the weekend that matters the most. Now we have our picks and bans, so we can see what everyone's gone in with. Looks like we do have the Battle of Lights in the lobby alone. Yeah, quite rightly removing the clutch as well. k1llsen wants to remove any kind of, not necessarily unpredictability, but something that could cause an upset. You know, on a single map, clutch is a harsh beast to fight sometimes, and even the best players can struggle against what he brings on certain maps. So take that out of the equation. We're now going into a much more standard game, and that's something that is only going to benefit k1llsen here. But Battle of Lights now, the Athena versus the Nyx. Ruins, SIB removing the movement. I quite like that because there's just less scope to get thoroughly overwhelmed, right? You're able to play a little bit slower. You're not going to deal with someone like k1llsen who, if he smells blood and he knows he can just be aggressive all map long, a crouch slider is going to help him so much to do that, which I guess is one of the elements that perhaps now Anarchy was picked instead. And then Corrupted Keep. BJ coming up there for SIB, k1llsen for just a bit of stability, and then k1ll, of all champions, taken away on Keep. Wonder what that's about.
I mean, we have seen SIB play k1ll in the past, but I wouldn't have expected it on Corrupted Keep. If anything, it's just keeping the pool a little bit more open. But Doom was still in the pool as well, so yeah, it's just keeping the pool open, I imagine. But you're right on the clutch ban. We know that SIB will pull that out if it's in the pool. So just to avoid any sticky situations, you want to keep that pretty standard. I think obviously the one matchup I'm really looking at is obviously that Awoken matchup with the Nyx against the Athena. And a well-played Athena is remarkable, but also a well-played Nyx can pretty much beat any champion. So that's the big anomaly for me. Across the board then, it is fairly standard. We're on the rail heavy map of Ruins will be interesting as well. If Ranger can get a bit of a foothold on that map and cycle the items, you can slow that tempo down, which could be in SIB's favor. And then Uncorrupted keep pretty standard again with the BJ against the Kalina. So it really is map one that I'm looking at mostly to see what can SIB pull out here on that Nyx.
I think across the board, SIB hasn't done too badly in this draft phase, because I kind of just look at what he has access to in all three of these maps. And even if you are dealing with someone who has a strong level of control on certain items, maybe they're able to cycle around the map a little bit more, all three of these picks in some way has given SIB an element of surprise almost. You know, Nyx is going to have not only mobility that, look, it's not going to compete with Athena, because I don't think anyone can on most of the maps, but having the access to Ghost Walk, kind of a get out of jail free card, could be kind of useful. I'm more thinking of map 2 and 3, because you're going to have the orb, and just the straight damage that orb's going to provide means that even in a fight that you shouldn't win on paper, just having the orb's damage or whatever it is can help. So there's just something SIB has in his back pocket. And I think the BJ is a very similar kind of experience, because a good dual wield and a good couple of seconds of LG, and even if k1llsen has stack, she's still going to have to worry about that. So I think that SIB has given himself these extra elements that will maybe help him out a little bit. But obviously, we've got to play good Quake too, and that is what k1llsen is planning every step of the way. So let's now jump into our first map here of Awoken, looking at things from k1llsen's point of view to start with. And looking for an early start.
Don't do it, don't do it. No. Wow.
That's a start and a half, I think we can say.
Sign of what's to come. SIB is alive, picking up the health. k1llsen knows exactly where he is, and obviously k1llsen is on his mid-ground. Oh, overconfident with the rail, though, actually swapping out from the rocket the last second. Bit of a mistake, but not punished anywhere near as hard as he should have been.
And k1llsen's going to play it safe there and not look to overstay his welcome. You know, we're going to get item first, fight later. The rail hasn't been 100% accurate yet. k1llsen has given himself a bit of a tall order. A lot of these rails that he's firing, he's flying a million miles an hour and has to somehow flick it, but SIB actually looking a bit healthier here. He's got more stack. Granted, only 3 rockets left, so he's going to have to restock on that. And a safe approach from SIB. k1llsen's going to take that first item. SIB much rather have the armor, so I think SIB's playing cautious, and I think that's a good way to play.
Oh yeah, he doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with k1llsen. He wants to take positioning and try and trap him, and he's done exactly that. We'll get at this first frag. After all that pressure, SIB picks it up, 1-0.
And that was all through SIB just not allowing himself to be overwhelmed, keep his head in the game, pick up the right items, and so far take no risks. He hasn't taken any significant risks. That rail, arguably a risk, obviously, because even if it hit, the damage you take could be quite massive here, but this is where the Ghost Walk helps out. SIB opts to pick up that small health bubble. I think confident that k1llsen's not going to hang around and try and finish it. We have more important things to attend to here. In k1llsen's case, picking up a lot of these items to try and bring himself back up to a decent stack.
It does show you the mindset SIB's in, though, in that there was a lot of respect for k1llsen there. He knew exactly the position here. k1llsen, he knew the timing. I would have thought he could have gone for an aggressive Ghost Walk. k1llsen had no idea where his opponent was, and now, because of that, he's given up a bit of the map. So, you know, it's one of those situations where you show almost too much respect for your opponents.
And we could see there, SIB definitely having to delay the spawn there just to stop k1llsen from perhaps getting some kind of free damage right as he appears. Ghost Walk push.
Nice!
And the gauntlet, okay!
There you go.
Okay. There's not many people out there that can get a frag on k1llsen like that, so if anything's gonna get SIB into this match, that is one way to do it. The LG has been delicious as well, not looking too shabby at all. And he looks for a rocket, can't quite get the damage. And k1llsen is going to escape there. That could have potentially been a third frag there for SIB. But he's still in a pretty decent situation. The one thing he lacks right now, though, is a rail.
Yeah, he does, but he's out strategizing k1llsen at the moment, who just needs to settle himself. Looking a bit rusty at the start of this game. SIB's got a good foothold on these major items now, picking up that mega. He's very healthy. He knows exactly when this mega, this heavy armor is. Bullies k1llsen away once again. A bit delayed with that rail, but k1llsen is very much on the back foot.
There's a massive delay between the two items too. And that's going to be good things for SIB. Aware of where k1llsen's going to try and stand. Delicious little burst of Tri-Bolt. So now k1llsen, unless he picks up some health right now, it's unlikely he's going to be able to really push in for this. SIB, just confident that k1llsen was going to go back there, looking to get some range damage. And, I mean, I'm going to match you. I know where you're going to be. I'm going to push forward. k1llsen, there needs to be a gear shift because SIB is looking fantastic so far. And I think that k1llsen has been, perhaps I would say, underestimating a couple of these plays.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. There's twice now where k1llsen's jumps in with this rail in situations where he had no right to do so. And to compound that, he's not hitting his rail either. So absolutely, SIB deserves this lead. And I know I said I looked at this game and saying, well played, Nyx can easily take this. And at the moment, that's exactly what SIB is doing. And he's just playing the basics well. He's timing well. He's taking safe pathing routes. k1llsen at the moment doesn't have an answer.
That's the strength of Athena right there. I'm on a jump pad, but I'm still not in danger. Another aggressive push. Big risk for SIB. I think would have been feeling a lot better if he got any kind of damage on that. And now this is a scary moment. Oh, the rail, SIB! Are you kidding me, SIB? What a shot! And in doing so, look at how much stack he's brought himself back into. He's got all the weapons, he's got all the ammo. Doesn't have Ghost Walk, but he's in a good situation for this heavy. Now an aggressive push being made. k1llsen taking tons of damage. The amount that SIB has been... Oh, that rail would have been another great shot. But he still has the information. He knows where k1llsen's going to be. Stuck in no man's land. In a good situation for this mega once more. SIB, that is what I'm talking about. We need to see so much more of this.
Man, I think k1llsen just smashed his trophy cabinet with that one. SIB playing around slowly, and he's done this time and time again. Actually, he's gone round. k1llsen actually going up aggressively. The Ghost Walk is forced out, but he did a fair amount of damage in retaliation. He's able to get across the map towards these next light armors.
The dangerous thing is, if k1llsen's able to secure a frag and he's in a good position, the frag is clean and he can start to push forward. This is where the next layer of the challenge will start to show its head because... Oh, never mind! Never mind! Forget I said anything because the knowledge. I know you're going to drop down there and take that armor. I'm ready for the angle and I'm going to hit the shot.
k1llsen's been really sloppy around these major items as well. A couple of times he's just overexposed himself. Doesn't feel like he's even really timing. And I think there is a lot of frustration at the moment because he's trying to push up here again. Which even if you have your opponent low is just a risk.
I think k1llsen is
SIB
learning.
is feeling it.
There is a potential harsh lesson being learned in this one so far. Oh, SIB! SIB, what is going on here, mate? And the early GG!
Oh my god.
What? It has been a strange old day, hasn't it, Dan? It's been a strange old day.
Wow. The early GG. Memesen.
I don't get it. I don't understand.
He's just
But you
mad.
know what? I mean, look. Yeah, let's go, SIB. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, God, the commentary is just completely devolved. But what hasn't... Well, I guess technically the match has too, because the early GG. But that was a side of SIB that if we saw that more often... This is why when I see SIB fight opponents, I know that there's definitely people that can look at cards and you would look at the result and you think that it's very likely we could see a 3-0 here.
Twitch economy is in shambles.
It is single-handedly ruining it.
Yeah.
Ruining that Twitch economy.
Everyone is back to zero now. The Great Depression of Quake.
But we've seen these matches before. Even the I will say notorious week a few weeks ago, where SIB fought Wenger. Even in that week, there was a map that just took everyone by surprise, and it was the final map.
Exactly.
Because when you look at players that have the means to, even on this map, this is, for me personally, that was my most impressive map I've seen of SIB all season long, because the fortitude, the mental fortitude was there. The decision making was perfectly fine. He made more than one really good reads on k1llsen for like where he was going to go, what kind of angle to take. Even early on, where he knows that k1llsen's going to try and make his presence known near the Mega. So what does SIB do? SIB just pushes right forward, completely takes him by surprise.
Look, I'm not taking anything away from SIB. k1llsen played a bad map. Let's put it that way. We know that, right? And there was a number of times where he looked visibly frustrated, particularly in the mid to late game. You could see SIB early on, though, just wanted to keep it steady. He wanted to play slow. He wanted to play defensive. And that was emphasized when I said he could have done that aggressive Ghost Walk to steal the Mega. Didn't take that choice because he wanted to have that Ghost Walk and play slow. But as soon as that momentum started to build for SIB, you could see his confidence grow and get into the game. And that's all he needed. And we said it in the intro that, yeah, I don't think anyone expected SIB to walk away with a victory, let alone a dominant victory in map 1. But anyone in the Pro League can beat anyone in the Pro League if they play their best and if their opponent either underestimates them or makes mistakes. And we saw both from k1llsen's side. So, well deserved. Now he's done a GG early, so he can go mentally reset because he was not a happy bunny. So let's see what happens in maps 2 and 3. Because we said it, if SIB can be consistent and hold it together, yes, he can take at least, well, he can take a map. So the question is, can he do it in map 2?
It is simply part 1 of this series, isn't it? You know, we still have 20 minutes of gameplay left to go, depending on if the GGs roll out, I suppose, kind of like now. But this is the development, right? This is where the test continues to increase in difficulty, because k1llsen has opted to, right, this map ain't working. Like, clearly this map is not working for me. Rather than just keep my absolute head in it, I'm going to take that time, and I'm now going to take the, I don't know, 3 minutes or so, or however long it was. The map has just ended, by the way, so don't worry, we'll be jumping into the next one soon. Taking that time. And that's why it's not always a bad thing for a player to GG something. I think when it's really early, where there's plenty of time left to make stuff happen, that's obviously a different discussion entirely. But part of being a player of this caliber is understanding when to take a time out in any way you can. Because in between maps, there's not much time. So that mental reset that k1llsen is no doubt doing as we speak, the opening moments even of that next map are going to be arguably the most interesting moment of the entire series, because what does k1llsen do from here? You know, we've spent this whole time talking about SIB's mental fortitude and how it's something that we would love to see be built upon, and there are weeks left to build on that. k1llsen's kind of in a similar position now, because we know k1llsen can get frustrated sometimes as well. Doesn't really hinder his performance that often though, and I think the consistency this year has shown that. But now, shoes on the other foot. You know, we're going into map 2. I hope we get to see it from k1llsen's point of view first, because I want to see where he goes from here. Yeah, there was some fantastic frags here from SIB, and that was the moment he pushed out, and I think it took k1llsen by surprise right there. But all round.
Yeah, and SIB hit his shots, played extremely well. Punished the sloppiness from k1llsen. So, absolutely well played. Yeah, 67% rail. I don't know if he was shooting him actually after the.
I think he was.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. Fair enough.
I think he was. It's really hard to look at the stats after that certain point, because unless I press my tab key like right as the GG happened, that information's long gone.
21-1. That's warping the frag differential for k1llsen now. But anyway, really well played by SIB. Let's have that reset. We're going into ruins now.
Now, this is where things have developed, though, Dan, because at the start of this, I was talking about, as we were looking at, excuse me, the picks and bans, and how for the remaining 2 maps, SIB has something beyond the basic rules of Quake that he can use in a pinch. You know, I think Ranger provides that. The BJ's dual wield can provide that. With how that first map went and how mentally rock solid SIB was able to stay, now we're going into these 2 maps where he has that extra damage that only those champions can give him, right? So it feels like there's even a higher amount of pressure on k1llsen, because now if there are mistakes made or things are sloppy, you're now going to have not only SIB hopefully, for his sake, able to hit the shots we saw in Awoken, but he's going to have an orb. He's going to have 2 guns. Like, this changes things quite significantly.
Yeah, and I think the start of this map could be quite important, because as you say, if SIB gets off to another good start, who's to say k1llsen doesn't start stressing out and becoming a bit angry once again? So the opening couple of minutes of this game will give a good sense of how this one is going to play out. I don't obviously expect SIB to have any sort of arrogance now, having beaten k1llsen convincingly, but he also needs to settle himself down, because it is back to 0.
Right, it's going to be k1llsen's point of view first, and a rail in hand, wasting no time with an injection. Now we're going to build that up. We're going to try and give ourselves a bit more breathing room for that potential opening damage. And there's the first rail, k1llsen. It could all come down to how we see this rail work out, right? If he's hitting these wild shots and he's flying around this map, confidence. And confidence can go a long way. But we did see elements of that, even on the first map. Now the control. This is going to be the main part of the game. k1llsen picking up a light armor on his way. Heavy's going to be that next objective of which SIB picks up happily. But positionally, k1llsen's going to be towards Mega side. Doesn't quite get that opening rail. With a bit more damage that we're going to trade. Plasma for nails. The rails. SIB's hitting a little bit more here. k1llsen out with the Mega. Lovely shot. Fully expecting SIB to take that angle, and how right he was. An interesting 60 seconds. SIB could be stuck in a bad situation here. Yeah, he's not going to want to use the orb there, because it would have been a huge waste. An aggressive push from k1llsen too. SIB goes for a major push, but does not work out, and k1llsen now 2 frags to 0. Opting to just take a little bit more of that armor. Gonna matter so much here for Anarchy.
Ooh.
He knows that Mega's free. He knows that SIB's kicking around there and there's nothing he can do. Alright, things are looking a lot better for k1llsen now, Dan. Significantly better.
Yeah, and I think he's going to want to do more than make amends for what happened on the previous map. I think he's going to want to rub his opponent's face in it. So SIB has to do some good work now to try and halt this momentum. He's off the map completely, has no items to his name. He's got the 2 heavies off the bat, and that is it so far. And the rails that were so trusty in the last map are just not hitting, whereas k1llsen somehow, over the last 4 minutes of his mental reset, has found his rail instead.
It goes to show. 4 minutes doesn't sound like a long time, but in a game like this, I think it can make all the difference. You see that in a lot of different games, right? Various different esports around the world, that any time a player can take to just recollect themselves. I think sometimes a fan will see a player doing this. They'll be like, what's going on? Why not just jump into the straight match? Why not jump into the next map or whatever it is? And sometimes that's the worst thing a player can do.
There's a rail from SIB, but he doesn't feel like he has any sort of semblance of the timings at the moment. He knows k1llsen just come up the jump pad, so he should be able to guesstimate now when it was. The question is, can he do any sort of significant damage? The answer is yes. The inject is popped. k1llsen's swerving around. SIB with the follow-up rail, but eats one himself, will be able to now reset and steal away this Mega, which is a much-needed item, and the first one off the map for SIB as well.
And due to the damage that k1llsen took in that exchange, he was not going to be able to get himself towards Mega in time. He certainly wasn't going to be able to rocket jump himself, otherwise that would have been a 3-0, not a 4. But k1llsen has taken that time to pick up as many hourglasses as he can, get some light armor when possible. And the second that inject is good to go, this is going to change the next fight. And just having access to that is going to help k1llsen a great deal, especially knowing that this is SIB we're talking about, who can fight and has been able to do so on that first map, and then that's not even factoring in the Dire Orb. An aggressive push made, answered back by an inject. The important thing is positioning on this heavy. Over controls this heavy. k1llsen. Hang on a minute, SIB. If SIB's able to get this, it's massive for him. No more rockets for k1llsen, the click. And he's going to have to concede that item.
He lost out on that one. In spite of the rocket server, it doesn't help the situation. SIB's done a good job to get back into this map now. He's got the items in rotation. And there you go, starting to read his opponent. Looking very healthy. Good rocket jump through, chasing his opponent. Inject comes out once again.
Oh.
This time, k1llsen does halt the aggression.
Yeah, a rail where there was barely a resemblance of an angle that somehow k1llsen was able to take full advantage of. somewhat even up these stacks. The opening rails don't hit anyone, and that's going to favor SIB on an aggressive sense. However, that one rail is going to force the push to end then and there. And as long as k1llsen's able to just control this lead and keep himself ahead of the game, you know, about to hit that 5-minute warning, SIB has been able to stay alive, and we haven't had any frags in a fair few minutes. But that doesn't change the fact that k1llsen is in the lead right now. Oh, the drop down punished.
Yeah, it's nice by SIB. He's hitting some of these clutch rails, but just not quite enough damage to finish off his opponent. And k1llsen there, give an inch, he takes a mile, finishing off SIB in the one opportunity he's had. Now he's back into this game, picking up this Mega. With a big split between the major items, SIB has to start again to get back into this map.
Tri-bolt as k1llsen has no need to take a risky rail duel here. That's going to force SIB to drop down. Actually, it looks a bit like k1llsen was still expecting SIB to be there. Not that it matters much, as the heavy is still going to get taken here. And, of course, we're going to push towards this Mega as the next item, but why wait? Oh, hang on a minute. That was a cheeky little maneuver from SIB. That was a cheeky little maneuver from SIB. All right. Rail. That was orb, rail, teleport, rail, rail. Love it.
Yeah, the first few minutes of this map, he wasn't connecting with the rails, but that certainly has brought him back into this game just before the next round of items as well. So SIB on the chase. You know, k1llsen hasn't got anything to work with, but definitely not fast enough with that orb to chase down his opponent. So instead, retreats, picks up that heavy, takes some unnecessary damage.
That was a fantastic rocket from k1llsen because it truly was the only weapon he had. All he has at the moment, he's just picked up an LG, but it was a nail gun and machine gun. That's it. You can get anything from that rocket, he'll happily take it. The rail shots. SIB. I remember talking to SIB, and this was years ago. This was back in Katowice. SIB mentioned back then, you know, doesn't always feel it, but when the rail is on point, it's a very different kind of experience for him. You know, if SIB's able to have the rail be his star weapon, it completely just opens up the possibilities of how he can play. And in a match like this, he's hitting some ridiculously clutch rail shots that, let's be frank, he desperately needs right now. This is where things change a fair amount. Now k1llsen in a better position for this armor. He's playing it safe. He's going to concede the armor here. He has an inject, and he still has the lead. That's the big thing that k1llsen, I think, is really banking on here. I have the lead, and I'm going to be faster than SIB.
Yeah, he's definitely playing around the speed now, but SIB reading his opponent once again, catching k1llsen. He's not railable, but will force him away. SIB's just quite happy to keep these items on lockdown. There's still plenty of time in this map catch up. 2.5 minutes. You can get conversion frags in this map fairly manageable. And going up against an Anarchy, if the Anarchy pops the inject, you know how vulnerable that champion becomes, particularly off a spawn. So, SIB, quite calm at this moment in time. As you say, it's a matter of just buying time for k1llsen, trying to run out that clock. He's so early for this Mega once again. Timing's not been his forte today, but he's bullied SIB away and gets a much needed frag to pick up some breathing space.
SIB being extremely aggressive there because this is a large map, so making those chases can be kind of challenging. And SIB goes for a big push. You know, he kind of banked it all on that orb push right there, did the tri-bolt. Sadly, has not worked out for him, and it has now created less than 2 minutes to go with a very defensive k1llsen who's going to, quite rightly so, play on those defensive angles and outmaneuvering SIB as k1llsen was able to do. And I think from this point on, it will be shocking if SIB's able to somehow pull this back. 1.5 minutes to get 5 frags. Going up against an Anarchy, yes, but he's going to have inject a couple of times. And it's k1llsen who's going to make securing that frag very, very difficult indeed. So I think k1llsen with the instant gear shift near the end, he wasn't making his presence known on every item. Didn't need to do that because there was no, you know, who says I have to be on this item? I'm in the lead and I've got lots of rail ammo. So we'll just roll with that.
But SIB made it hard work for k1llsen. It was definitely a period of that match where k1llsen felt, again, pressured by SIB, wasn't able to get onto it, and this is what happens. You can give a player like SIB that lockdown of the map, give him that rotation, he can run with it. k1llsen had enough in the tank at the end to grind his way back into the map, and SIB's rotation in some ways was his undoing as he got bullied off of that Mega, but it it does show the challenge he can pose, and that k1llsen still has to play pretty much his best to keep putting out these results. So we are going to move into a 1-1 tied series. SIB can be very proud of at least even this second map performance, even though it is 8-2. 3-4 minutes in the mid game there, played extremely well.
And it's enough that we can build into a thoroughly interesting final map. It is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, Corrupted Keep.
Yep.
So that was where we've seen the BJ come out from SIB, and we've seen quite a lot that Corrupted Keep can be unpredictable and strange, for lack of a better term. That map is its own beast. What happens there often stays there, but in a position where it's the final map and both players have a map win already, Corrupted Keep becomes, in my opinion, the most exciting place to settle things.
Yeah. What I will say is that SIB has been, as I think you actually mentioned it in the mid game there, has been enabled by his rail a lot. And that's obviously a weapon that he will not have access to on this final map. So this map becomes a lot more about positioning and the mid-range chips damage, who can be more efficient with their damage output, preserve their stack as well. So that's something k1llsen, even though obviously he has an amazing rail, he's just incredible at this particular type of map as well, because his positioning is always on point and he's incredibly aware of his opponent. So SIB will definitely have to adjust in order to stay in this one. But he does have the BJ, which has that good mid-range utility as well. But if he can pick up the efficiency with the heavy machine gun, the tri-bolt, the nail gun, just to keep k1llsen's stack manageable, absolutely he can keep in it. And we saw Strong Sage doing that last week against Venga.
I think that even looking at those highlight reel moments in the end of the second map, it was pretty much all k1llsen. And then it was, as you said, that sort of 3-4 minute, that mid-game section where SIB was well on the way to pulling off an impressive comeback. It was just sort of shortened by k1llsen, quite rightly going for a much more defensive retreat hit and run style game. But there was a couple of minutes there where SIB was working on what could have been an impressive comeback. And really, once again, that goes back into talking about the mental state and being able to keep your head in the game and keep yourself focused. So we are looking at a thoroughly competitive series so far. A convincing win for SIB on map 1. A competitive win for k1llsen in map 2, where definitely, let's be real, he played significantly better on that second map. Third map, very different story. So as you mentioned just now, SIB not having the rail here, I guess we'll see how that one goes. But an element of that is possibly one of the reasons that BJ becomes quite popular, because you're still going to have access to massive damage. It's just in a slightly more unorthodox way. Maybe those dual heavy machine guns from range, the dual shotguns or rockets at close range. LG obviously is dual LG, but overall it's a great map for that champion. k1llsen's going to have a bit more sustainability. Those totems are going to really speak for themselves. I think that champion pick needs no introduction. We kind of know what k1llsen's going to be trying to do here with that. And we shall see who takes the final spot, that final map between the two.
Yeah, the key on a map like Corrupted Keep is that you have to have a presence. You have to always be on the map. You have to always be active. On maps like Ruins or Molten, etc., where you have the rail, there's quite a lot of distance between you. You can play slow, you can play defensive, you can play around the lights even and just use the rail to get back into the game. You just can't do that on a map like Corrupted Keep. You have to keep your opponent's stack manageable. You have to keep pressuring the items. So let's just see if SIB can take that step change and do that accordingly.
Not a terrible start for SIB so far, as he got some respectable damage. Gonna get a little bit extra damage there as k1llsen picks up that heavy, but with an LG in hand and the Mega to pick up as well. Unfortunately now, though, SIB definitely losing out on that machine gun war, and that rocket hurts as well. Perhaps overstaying his welcome, because this is going to be a scary fight and one that, statistically, he wasn't going to survive in that position.
No, and there we go. There's just that simple efficiency at bay there. k1llsen double backing with the heavy machine gun. SIB unready for it with the wrong weapon out. Now, already finding himself 1-0 down. Has to take a moment to pick up the right weapons. k1llsen on the other hand taking a moment to do some damage and also delay the heavy as well.
Certainly not a bad strategy, and SIB, as you said, guesstimate perhaps. He's not going to know exactly when that heavy was taken, but I mean, he saw k1llsen go in and out, so it's safe to assume that he took that. A dual wield pulled out by SIB did not result in a frag. It resulted in some pretty decent damage though, but Just caught out in the wrong spot. That's a 2-0 for k1llsen. And from this point on Corrupted Keep, the pressure can start to mount. SIB spawned near the heavy, but he did not have a weapon to even come close to fighting that, so he's got to retreat.
Nope, and k1llsen also gets the light armor, so SIB has nothing to work with at the moment. He's going to hover around this rocket area. He doesn't even have the rocket, hasn't had time to pick it up, so he is living dangerously and will be going down 3-0. k1llsen now with a big split between the major items. SIB has lost track of those as well.
Oh, that rocket jump could still very much result in a kill there for k1llsen because he has set up shop with those totems in the middle of the map. Thankfully for SIB, he was able to spawn close to them, so he's able to take those out. Wow, get some lovely damage on the LG to boot.
Huge.
Oh! I am so surprised the shotgun did that much damage from that range, but we'll take those.
Preemptive use of the jewel comes to nothing. Maybe it needs to be slightly more reserved with just popping that, but nevertheless.
Has been able to pick up some hourglasses at the same time though, so a rather chunky cooldown has been shortened to what's now going to be just 12 seconds. We'll have it in time for the next item, and k1llsen stepping around the corner, maybe a bit too early, and catches him off the spawn too. k1llsen in and out. Very much so in and out. SIB wasn't able to get an inch of damage in that situation.
Yeah. The blessing for k1llsen is the fact that both these major items have begun to tie up their timing, so he has that reserve to fall back on. SIB though is going to barrel through, doesn't even know where k1llsen is. That's careless. Huge rockets coming out from the German, going up. They're both fairly low, and it will be SIB to bite the dust.
I was waiting for that dual wield to come out, but it just didn't. I respect the confidence and maybe the calculation. I don't think I need the dual wield here, but if he just had it, perhaps that could have resulted in an extra frag here for SIB, and then who knows what kind of pressure. All it has done now, though, means is that k1llsen, 3 frags in the lead, and he is nicely stacked at the same time.
The tempo's begun to slow from both players right now, and it's in part due to the fact that both major items are on the same timing, and that's always going to favor the person on the defense. That's exactly what k1llsen's playing around, though. He's playing around the swapping in position of SIB. And just will take whatever item SIB does not go to. Saying that, he's actually going to pressure in. Oh no, just a little bit of spam, hasn't got an LG. So he wants to definitely work away safely around to try and pick up that item. But needs SIB to make a committal before he can confidently do it.
And not having this LG, that changes the mid-range.
Yep.
From this position, SIB looking for an aggressive push. To assume that k1llsen's going to be pushing towards Rocket Room. All of this is going to take time, and that's an extra element to this. These are 2 champions not exactly known for their mobility. Alright, big chase is made. SIB forced to use the dual wield, but has now given the trade. Perhaps now k1llsen. We go 1 item for the other. SIB will pick up some hourglasses because dual wield would be real handy here, although the use of dual wield has been kind of hit and miss for SIB so far. And now we both have an LG. This does change the fight for k1llsen. Lots of damage at range. Has to respect these. Oh, the rocket shots! I mean, the forbidden fruit, right? You feel like you gotta take it, but you know the opponent's able to spam some rockets there. You take the risk, and in that case, it just didn't work out. Lovely rocket jump from SIB, though. Is it going to result in a kill? Pushes through the teleporter. Takes a lot of defensive rocket damage, but no trade. SIB, so weak that a refrag from k1llsen looking pretty likely here. Drop down. Got to direct it, but can't hit it. k1llsen's only got a nail gun to his name. Now he has a machine gun, and he'll seal the deal. That was a strange exchange.
Strange game, actually, but k1llsen extending the lead once more, 4 frags in it. Still, SIB is able to keep on the map. In spite of these frags, they are not clean from k1llsen, so SIB is more than in this game, more than this map. He definitely needs to be careful as k1llsen's exploiting that recklessness. He's jumped actually into k1llsen. Huge rocket, k1llsen's solo, but SIB not the healthiest either.
That was so close to being a frag for SIB in that instance. And the defensive positioning from k1llsen expects the chase. And when it happens, he punishes with more of that heavy machine gun. Small frags here and there, but they're always in the favor of k1llsen so far. And as we go towards the end of this map, I mean, even now, even if SIB secures a frag here, it won't be clean, but he can't even secure it. k1llsen's defensive plays have just been such a pain in the backside. He just lives with nothing to his name.
Every time he's living with nothing to his name, but this is the challenge. k1llsen's positioning and damage has just been slightly better than SIB. You can see SIB once again, it's these slightly reckless pushes that have cost him. Coming out of the mega armor, the mega health of the armor areas, k1llsen's been punishing those exit pathing, and it hasn't been a clean enough game from SIB yet. He's contested it all the way. Still 3 minutes to go, but this lead continues to mount. Now SIB are looking more and more desperate with some of these pushes.
SIB kind of small little details, tried to do what he could there. Tried to kind of hide around that corner while he waited for the recharging 25 to come back. Maybe tank a couple extra bullets. Not that it really mattered all that much. But time is of the essence now. The pressure's on. You need to mount this snowball of a comeback, and it does seem unlikely. k1llsen with the defensive totem that can just allow you to get essentially a free rocket jump. Smart stuff there. It's a gear shift, just like our last map. k1llsen has a lead, and he's going to play on that lead.
Ooh,
continue to mount. One frag after another, and it's going to be frustrating for SIB here. He went for so many pushes that you can understand, because in the fights, k1llsen was so low every single time. But it's as you pointed out though, Dan, the damage and the positioning for k1llsen was just there consistently. And even when SIB lands a frag, it's never clean. It's never enough that he can continue to push.
Okay. Okay. 6 to 12. It's been a messy map, but SIB has done a great job to keep k1llsen on the back foot for the large majority of it, but as we've seen from k1llsen's POV, it's been managed on the defense. He's allowed SIB to make these pushes, almost goading him in some instances, and punishing SIB for any lackluster efforts at leaving these armor or mega health areas. It's just been punishing for SIB. He's done a great job to keep in this map, but the pressure on the defense from k1llsen has just been too much.
And with 1 minute left to go, it's looking extremely unlikely. You know, I know Corrupted Keep can have its fair share of miracles, but mathematically, I don't think we're going to be able to see one of those. It has resulted in a rather interesting series from start to finish, though. And although k1llsen's going to be walking away with this win 2-1, there were so many moving parts in this series that, for me, spells interesting things for SIB. You know, this is even a 2-1 here, and how competitive these maps have been. I think there's quite a few people that probably weren't expecting that. But that's what Pro League's all about. You're seeing week after week players and their individual journeys. I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million times more. This kind of week will be important for SIB, because it was 2-1 versus one of the best to ever do it in the whole game. And every map, even the second map, yeah, it fell away from him eventually, but there was a really impressive comeback being mounted, and one that after seeing the first map, I think a lot of people were seeing and thinking, hang on, actually, this could happen. You know, what the likelihood is a different story, but it's not completely out of the question. And it's given us a lot more information on SIB today. You know, well done to k1llsen, absolutely, congrats. Don't think he's going to be happy with a 2-1. k1llsen's the kind of player that strives for perfection. But we can take away a lot from the set that we've just watched, you know?
No, I agree. And obviously it was an upset to take a map away from k1llsen. And not only that, every map was close in its own way, and there was large periods of dominance from from SIB throughout. I think, particularly in this last map, we did see that lack of experience from SIB's perspective coming to play there, and k1llsen playing around that. But the fact he had these periods of control and pressure on k1llsen, keeping k1llsen very much on the back foot, all credit to how far SIB has come. I think we've seen also how reliant SIB can be on things like the rail, but when it all comes together, he's in the Pro League for a reason, and he showed exactly why today. So the point you made is can he take this and build on it throughout the next few weeks? Because if he does, he can push himself into that lower to mid table, which is a really, really healthy place to be for his space back in the Pro League. So if he could do that, then full credit for him. I think the big thing was that he maintained his composure and he tilted k1llsen throughout. So full credit to SIB.
As we gear towards the finals, you know, that's what these weeklies are all about. It's the build up to the one that matters, the one that matters most to everyone, the viewers, the players, everybody. These weeklies are all about information gathering. And I think SIB can take quite a lot of information away from these 3 maps that we just saw. It's being able to have mental fortitude, not tilt. I think even in those maps that would eventually not go SIB's way, I just don't think we saw anything close to frustration. We've seen frustration before, not just from SIB, we've seen it from loads of players. Didn't look like that to me. And that means a great amount as we close out into the final push of the weeklies, eventually going to be the finals. This is the stuff you have to iron out now. And it looks like SIB's in the process of it.
Look, I think it was his first time in the Pro League when I got really angry watching him once because I think he played against Rafa and he threw in the towel before he'd even started the maps, and you could see that in the way in which he was playing the game. And that's a step change in the way he's playing against players like k1llsen. He's trying to take the game to them and try and play his own game. He isn't fearful of what might happen, and that is exactly why he won map 1, and he kept himself strong in the games in maps 2 and 3. So even that in itself is a microcosm of how far SIB as a player has come. So full credit to him, and you know, to take him up against k1llsen, he's one of the few players in the Pro League to have that to his name, so that's a good place to be.
Well, we have our next matchup getting set up as we speak, so we're going to go for a quick break, and when we return, we're going to see Strong Sage once more. So in a few minutes time, we'll be back. Thank you so much for watching, and see ya in about 5 minutes.